And there's all, yeah, like I said, and there was the other question about getting people of color to thrive at work. But yes, go ahead. I'll take that one.
Yep, this came up in our group too. So the question, May, I noticed in your title about racial equity work. How do you address the issue of lack of diversity in hiring opportunities? Is this human error or talent acquisition screening tools?
All right. So let's talk about that. And I can talk about that from two different vantage points. One, when I was in corporate America, and when now that I am in government nonprofit. All right. I think a couple things. This whole lack of diversity is a matter of what are you considering diversity? And then where are you looking? I will always maintain that you have to be comfortable with the idea of your pool being different, and that you're looking not just for anybody, but the right somebody. Okay? So, is it a matter of bias? I don't know if it's biased, but I do think we need to talk about talent acquisition in the true meaning of broadening and deepening what that looks like. And making sure that when we get people who are not what we had envisioned, right, in a particular role, that they are granted the same grace and respect that you would of someone that you were normally accustomed to working with. Case in point, I will tell you, one of the things that we worked at very hard around here was expanding some of our pools for hiring, and we had done a good job on a really hard to fill position. We we got there, we had rated the candidates. As it turned out, when we had just raw scored the candidate of color was the number one pick. When it came to the interview, though, and after the interview, the candidate of color dropped to the very bottom. And I didn't think anything about it until someone on the panel said, May, I'm really uncomfortable with how it how things panned out. And I said, okay, could you be more specific? Well, I will tell you, when we had that particular candidate and that candidate left, they answered the questions really well. But what happened was the discussion around me, everyone called into question, well, how do we know if that person's telling the truth? How do we know what they meant when they said they ran a program or they were responsible? I mean, were they really? Um, so even though we we start off every hiring pool with a short clip or some material on bias, it was very clear that these folks were still having some issues. And if someone hadn't been brave enough to come to me and say, hey, just so you know, this occurred, you may want to think about it, then I wouldn't have known that while I had done a good job or we had done a good job on one end in securing a more diverse pool, we had not done a greater job at making sure that that pool was looked at um, with clear vision and without bias. So I think those are two things you have to think about. Training on both ends of it and making sure that when we have been successful at finding the person, that that person is still seen and screened with the right eye. I hope that answered the question for someone.
Thank